There's just fewer wealthy men. The reason why the billionaire does not date the barista is not a function of assortative mating. It's a function of economics. There's only 5,000 billionaires and there's 500,000 baristas. Right. That's the difference. Yeah. And so because of that, then they just say, well, hypergamy isn't real. Men do not want young, hot wives. And they keep saying this nonsense, and it's not true.
Successful men will date an Applebee's waitress. Doesn't line up with the data that richer men tend to select richer women. More educated men tend to select more educated women. Richer women appear basically immune to the decline in marriage that has transpired since the 1970s. When you look at this data holistically, it doesn't seem to be the case that there is a effect of men selecting downward for youth and beauty and whatnot at the expense of career and education. When you look at the most successful men, they tend to pair up with the most successful women, even though oftentimes those women stop working after marriage. At the initial point of contact, they tend to both be in similar stratosphere.
So the idea is the billionaire dating the barista, and that doesn't happen. Generally, people end up getting in relationships with the people of their own socioeconomic group. And I think that the data maybe lacks some context.
Two little comments about that. So like one is like, even if the woman isn't wealthy or whatever, like every man is as good as the woman behind him. So let's say like, you know,
I don't know if every man is as good as the woman
behind him. You know the saying, right? Okay. Well, like, you know, let's say like she might not be as successful or whatever. And then also, I feel like dating has changed for wealthy men. They no longer just like date. It's more kind of like an arrangement.
Okay, so here's the issue. I think as men garner fewer and fewer social skills because of the Zoomification of our society, meaning we have meetings on Zoom, we don't do things in real life anymore. As that happens, the wealth has to overcome his autistic nature, like his lack of calibration. The wealth has to. And so what happens is he actually starts going to matchmakers, which matchmakers are just, I can't think of a profession that is just more ridiculous than a matchmaker. I have several friends that are matchmakers, and I tell them all the same time. The first thing they ask about the guys when they matchmake them is how much money they make. And it's so blatant what's going on here with the matchmakers. It's men who don't have game and have a lot of money who need a woman to help them find some man that they're supposed to be with. And this thing is supposed to be so glorious. I'm friends with Patty Stanger. I'm telling you right now that the whole thing is about money, and it's so problematic when I watch it. And when the women come to the matchmaker, it's like, hey, I'm tired of working. I need a man with money. And when the men come to the matchmaker, it's like, I have a lot of money, but I can't meet a great woman. It's never the fat broke guy who goes to the matchmaker. It's like, hook me up with a hot young chick. That's my point. It's exactly my point.
So the question is, do millionaires date girls that are baristas? Yes, I believe so. I was the answer for years. And what society would say is a high value man. These men wanted women that were not successful or they were desired. I think the whole idea around women needing to be equal or in the same financial bracket or however doesn't apply, because a lot of men, the things that are put on the internet are not really the same shit that men are following. I think a lot of stuff is clickbait.
Okay, so there's two caveats here because I hear this data all the time. This assortative made of data. The first thing is wealthy people tend to marry other wealthy people because that's who they're around. That has a lot to do with it. The proximity.
I have something to say.
I went to this Wilshire Baptist Church in East Dallas, and everyone there was Anglo and rich. They all went to Lake Highlands High School, and they're rich. And then I went to high school at Woodrow Wilson High School in East Dallas, and that place was ghetto as fuck. And it was just like, I noticed that my friends who were ghetto hung around other people who were ghetto, and my friends who were rich hung around other people that were rich. So people marrying other people in the same socioeconomic bracket happens because of logistics more so than it has to do with assortative mating. That's the first thing.
What do you mean by ghetto?
Like, I grew up in East Dallas. All my friends grew up with crack dealers. Like, that's what I mean. I legitimately mean ghetto. Let's go to the opposite part of this, which is the concept of when he starts talking about people dating in their same socioeconomic class. There's other data that shows that wealthier people, and I know this is going to come off as maybe offensive to some people, but what happens in general is that women can marry out of their caste by being very attractive. And so several times you'll see very attractive women marrying people who are in a different socioeconomic bracket. Than it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen often enough. And because of that, there is data showing that wealthier people tend to be more good looking on average. And so because of that, that's why I would say also these wealthier men are marrying women that are in the same socioeconomic bracket, because that ends up being the same people.
This is something I've noticed, and it's like a personal experience. Never got that bad, but it's something I observed, which is if you date a really hot chick and you're doing well for yourself and all your friends are super successful.
Yeah.
I have a friend that's a billionaire. Like a billionaire guy is actually no different than some of the guys I just know that I hang out with. Like they actually have like their own insecurities. I know one guy he never pulled a girl in his life. Like it's unbelievable. This guy's super wealthy.
Yeah.
Anyway, my ex-girlfriend, she was super beautiful girl in medical school. So like I like that because she was like kind of like intelligent. I like that, right? And then I brought her to meet all my friends, and all my friends are super successful. And I noticed something like, okay, she's not gonna like cheat on me with my friends. I don't think. I hope not. But she's not around. Like all the guys that she met through my friends, I think individually she would respond well to if she met independently, right?
Yes.
And because she's never around those guys, she's like, where's the circle of like wealthy men? It's like, oh, it's like my friend group or your friend group, right? They're not out there at the bar all hanging out together sometimes.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. There's just fewer wealthy men. The reason why the billionaire does not date the barista is not a function of assortative mating. It's a function of economics. There's only 5,000 billionaires and there's 500,000 baristas.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And so because of that, then they just say, well, hypergamy isn't real. Men do not want young, hot wives. And they keep saying this nonsense and it's not true.
I have a question too, or a comment on that. I just noticed, like you said, like from personal experience, when I worked at McDonald's for 5 years. I changed my whole face. I got into Playboy right after I changed my whole face and changed my teeth, changed my face, everything. Cause I was like, this just isn't working for me. Nobody dated me when I was at McDonald's. Nobody was attracted to me. There was like, I was like a novelty. Like I was cute for a minute and then it was just like, bye kind of thing. And then, but I did notice I didn't have any education at the time because I just didn't have the access to that.
So the guys that are picking you are not necessarily.
Lauren, let me say,
they don't care about your career.
Lauren, listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to
You
say
made
this.
yourself hot.
I'm going to say this.
Well, yeah. So that changed everything.
Listen, I'm gonna say this. I actually really like Mackin a lot, and I'm sorry, this is objectively true. If you were a McDonald's worker,
yes,
and you were really, really attractive, no one would give 2/10 of a shit that you were a McDonald's worker. Men would date you. I know what he's saying. I understand. But in reality, if a girl is a dime piece and she is a Denny's waitress and she's 19, dudes will trip over themselves of all socioeconomic classes if she is truly a 10.
But I was not a 10. Yeah.
Well, my point is you're equating you're not being with a high status guy with your job. And
I couldn't get with any guy.
One gives a that you worked at McDonald's. No man cared. I know that there may be a few out there.
Yeah.
But if a girl is exactly my physical type and she works at McDonald's, I will still, and so will every man, and you can lie. But listen, you got to deal with your maker someday. If you want to lie about this, you can. If a girl is a certified 10 and she works at Taco Bueno, you will still smash.
So
Go ahead and lie.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm talking even the guys, all of you guys who went on Chris Williamson, even you can lie. The reality is, one of the things I do respect Chris Williamson for saying, he said, when I saw my future wife, when I saw her, I did not think, I want to have kids with this woman. I wonder how intelligent she is. He says, I wanted to have sexual intercourse with that woman when I saw her. And this guy is on the woke left side as far as socialist as you can go. And he even said that. That is the reality. And so for the initial, like, Lauren, you and I are friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I are friends. We have a conversation about intellectual stuff.
Yeah.
We can do so because it's a person-to-person conversation. But if I'm going to date a woman and you want to know what the number one attribute when I first meet her is, it is 175% physical attraction. I don't care what any. I don't. Yes. What I'm saying is, if you weren't attractive, then you weren't attractive. But the McDonald's shit, if I went, dude, if you and me went through McDonald's drive-through in the Cybertruck and we saw a girl who was just like straight up Megan Fox, I'm like, yo, what are you doing working here?
I'll tell you right now.
I'm sorry. My girl would actually be asking her, what are you doing? Go ahead.
No, I was at CES today, and there's this thing called booth babes, booth girls. They get hired by companies to stand at the booth.
By the way, shout out to Bella Model Management, shout out to Blink Model Management, shout out to Legend Models and Talent, shout out to LV Platinum, shout out to all those are all the atmosphere modeling agencies in the city that hire all those girls for convention.
So I'm looking at like a slushy machine. I don't give a fuck about the slushy machine. The girl is beautiful in front of me, and she's talking to me, and she's like, "You live in Miami? Like, I've never been there." And she's like so like full of excitement, and she's like, I heard the clubs are like crazy. Have you been to Space? I'm like, I was Space last weekend. Like, it's not the biggest deal. But she was enamored, right? This girl was very young. I don't know how she was. Maybe she was 20 or something, right? And she was like, oh my God, I would love to go there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, 34, I probably shouldn't ask her if she wants to come to Miami. But
Yeah.
But you got her a ticket.
I did.
You got her a ticket.
No, I didn't. I just I walked
she's staying
away
at the SLS. You got her a place at the SLS.
What stopped you from doing that?
I think there's like, I don't know. I'm recently single, so like going that young and recently, it was weird for me. But
that's fine. You can have that preference.
Big energy shift.
You can have that preference and still recognize if she's physically attractive or not. And
she was very attractive.
And there is a level of attractiveness that you would have said.
So
yes.
I'm saying, like, if I was in my own town where I grew up in, and I met in the same scenario, and she's like, I've just never been out that much. I don't know what a drive-through movie is. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. I'm not that old, but in my hometown, they had one. They had one.
I would know.
Yeah, it's like a cool novelty. And I don't know. I don't know anyone with a car or something like that. Okay, I guess that's too young. But regardless, the point is that I think a guy would definitely bite on that. So in your scenario, I think you just probably like weren't exposed to the right person.
I agree.
And
I agree totally.
I mean, we're talking about.
You're not ugly, so I feel like in that scenario, you might have just been like in this small. I don't know where you're from, but maybe you're in a town where people are coming in and out. It's McDonald's are fast, but if they met you during your smoke break or whatever, I think they would have been.
Would you have wanted the
I wanted that.
clientele, but
Well, so-
specifically the clientele that you were around most of the day, which would have been
Well, so what was
McDonald's
interesting
clientele.
is when I was at McDonald's, I was like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and then I would notice, I would always say that, like all the time, like to myself though, I'd like hide it, like kind of thing. I'd be like, I'm hiding it. Turned out that it was like you said, like I was pretty enough to like make a connection or to hook up with or something, because like people would come in the drive-thru and then
So
I
you
like,
did hook up with them.
I did, but then they would leave. But they would
You-
leave though.
Time out.
They would leave.
We gotta stop.
They would
We gotta
leave.
stop the whole show.
I
You were working. Stop. No, listen to me.
Yes, they
Because
leave though.
this is not a big deal to you, but it is to everyone else.
Okay.
You were working as a cashier
Yeah.
at a McDonald's and hooked up with dudes that you met that were going through the drive-thru.
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
Where's this McDonald's?
Whoa.
Get out of here.
Oh,
Magic
stop the
McDonald's.
I
show.
was there since
Stop
like high
the
school.
show, bro. That is
Kentucky.
Really, that's weird. I was normal to me.
That's awesome. That's a great place.
that's the beginning of a porn scene.
Yeah, right?
If I was working at McDonald's, I don't think I'd be able to bang any chicks through it. I'm sorry.